Blast me to the mortal realms. It's time for the Mad Merlins review of Warhammer Underworlds, the starter set by Games Workshop. Hi guys, Merlin bringing you another Warhammer Underworlds video. So today we are going to be taking a look at the Warhammer Underworlds starter set. So in order to get my commemorative model for Warhammer Plus Year 3, I decided to also pick up a little starter set that I've been meaning to pick up. Mainly I want this because of the Sepulchral Guard, one of the oldest warbands in Warhammer Underworlds, and one that I had but I sadly lost due to a breakup. So yeah, it's a rather nice set. It's cool that I've got this warband. I already have the models for the Farstriders, but I now have the cards, and I will probably paint these guys up in a different colour scheme. Probably go for my Iron Fanes colour scheme. I think they look quite nice done in that. But yeah, we have, of course, the cards, dice, the boards, and all the tokens are the exact same boards that came from the very first starter set, Shadespire. Way back, must be 5 years ago now, I think, nearly. So yeah, 2016, I think the first one came out. I can't remember. It's been a long time. This game system's been around for quite a while, and they've had so many starter sets, and they are all fantastic value sets, I think. So yeah, we'll have a look at this in a moment, but before we do, let's go through the usual rigmarole. So please do like this video if you are enjoying the content, and if you are, please consider subscribing to the channel as it helps us grow. Also, please do consider signing up to me on Patreon. There are some great benefits, and there's a link in the video description down below. So with that said, let's jump over the table and we'll have a look at Underworlds, the starter set. So here we are with the 2-player starter set for Warhammer Underworlds. So yeah, we have the Farstriders and the Sepulchral Guard at the front there. So these are 2 warbands from the very early days of Warhammer Underworlds. I believe they came out at the same time, back when they used to release 2 warbands at a time. So you have your starter set, and then they released 2 other warbands, and then they used to release individual warbands. I think the only one I ever did properly pick up from Shadespire was the Skaven warband. None of the others I did quite like, though I did pick up Steelhelm's Champions at a later date. But yeah. So yeah, let's take a look then at the back of the box here. So we have 10 easy build models, and we have our description. So, the cursed city of Shadespire has trapped you and your warriors in its ghastly embrace. Now you must battle your way through its haunted streets and find a way to freedom. Warhammer Underworlds is a fast-paced and thrilling arena combat game for 2 players. Assemble your warband, upgrade your fighters, and unleash cunning ploys to lay low your foes and claim victory. So moving down, we have our contents. So 3 Farstrider fighters, 7 Sepulchral Guard fighters, 52-page playthrough booklet to introduce you to the game, a 52-page full rules booklet, 10 fighter cards, 2 double-sided game boards, 32-card Farstrider deck, a 32-card Sepulchral Guard deck, 114 counters and tokens, as well as 8 Underworlds dice. So first off, you have to build your warband. They are all easy to build models, so you just need to clip them out, clean them up, and they will push fit together nicely. Then you can, of course, paint them in your own time. We have our decks, so you want to familiarize yourself with your decks. They are pretty much readily constructed, so you open, shuffle, and play. But it's a good idea to read through each of the decks and cards to see what they do and how best to use them. And then finally, battle your opponents. So, the game is ideal for 2 players, roughly takes half an hour to play, and is ideal for ages 12 and up. So yeah, right, let's cut the tape. So do that, and then let's lift the lid on Warhammer Underworlds, the starter set. So we'll lift the lid, and first off we are greeted with our beginner booklet. So read this first. Very nice. Then we have our game boards. So like I said, these are the ones that came with Shadespire. I don't think I ever got these boards. I did try picking them up several times, but never got around to actually winning a set. So this is the first time I've got these boards. We have our full rule book. So once you've gone through the introductory guide, we have everything you need to know in here. We got our build guides, paint guides, background, etc., and of course all the full rules. We then have our models. So we got the Sepulchral Guard there, some lovely looking skeleton boys, led by the Sepulchral Warden, and we have I think 6 individual fighters that go with him. So yeah, some pretty nice little skeletons there for you to wield and take to the battle. And then in the blue plastic we have the Farstriders. So a set of Vanguard Hunters for the Stormcast Eternals. If, like me, you collected a Mortal Realms magazine, you would have got these guys with that issue. So this is the second time I've actually had this set, and I would definitely be painting them up in a different colour scheme this time around. But yeah, they do look fantastic models nonetheless. Next up then, we have our dice here. So our 3 black defense dice and our 5 white attack dice. Then we have our 2 decks wrapped up in a paper strap but packaged in film. And apparently we've got to lift this to find our rule book, but there's nothing there. We've already got our rule book and game boards. So yeah, right. Let's take a look through each of the individual components. We'll start with a close-up look at those warband frames, and then we'll go through our books and cards. So we'll start off with the Farstriders. So we have Elias Swiftblade here with his sword and gun, a little bit of a tree stump standing next to. Then we have Almeric Eagle Eye standing stoically on a broken tree stump with his pistol and his axe. And finally we have Sanson Farstrider, the leader of the warband, with his little hawk there, standing on a fallen tree with his pistol raised high and his sword, or axe rather, slung over his shoulders there. So yeah, these are fantastically detailed, lovely little models. Love the detailing on the capes here, so animal furs, much like the rest of the Vanguard Hunter range. But yeah, these guys do look fantastic. As I have mentioned, I've painted these guys before, but they were done in different colour schemes for a different collection, so it's nice to get them again and hopefully paint them in the collection colour scheme that I'll be keeping for the future. Next up then, it's the Sepulchral Guard's turn. So we have our champion here, the actual Sepulchral Warden, stepping on a tombstone where there's a hand pushing up from underneath. We then have here the Harvester with his shredded massive scythe. Next up then we have the Prince of Dust in his 2 components there with his mace and shield. We then have the champion with his shield slung over his back and a double-handed sword in grip. We then have the Zealous Petitioner, who is a basic skeleton with sword and shield there. We have the Rising Petitioner, who is crawling out of the ground next to his gravestone there. And finally we have the Inevitable Petitioner, who is again another sword and shield, but he's got a little bit of extra detail. He's got some furs wrapped around him as well as his loincloth there. So yeah, it's nice that they've named each one individually, but you have, from what I remember playing on the game, you get 4 petitioners. The Prince of Dust counts as a petitioner. He's just a champion of them. 3 other petitioners. You get the champion with the double-handed sword, and then the executioner, or harvester, as he's now known. And yeah, we get the prince there. He looks fantastic. You've got that classic vampire counts, bat wings and skulled shield motif there. Very old world. And we've got the underside detail there. So each of these models is fantastically detailed. Much better than some of the older skeleton sculpts that were around and are still around in some ranges. But yeah, they look fantastic. They are push fit models. And I look forward to putting these guys together and painting them. Last time I painted them, I kind of messed up the colour scheme, but this time around I think I'm going to do things a little different. But yeah, each one has a unique base, usually with either a slot or pegs to push into. And yeah, well, I'm looking forward to putting these guys to the dungeon. So there, that's that for the models. Let's take a look then through our rulebooks. So we'll have a quick flick through our read this first booklet. So this is perfect to help you. It plays you through your first turn of the game and uses very minimal components. So we set our boards up. We then set up our objective tokens. We then gather these starting cards into our hand. And then we place down our warbands. So yeah. And then we go through, it takes us in turn, so round 1, the Farstriders turn 1, so we go through the first activation, making an attack, and then going through the power step. Then we choose the Sepulchral Guards, first activation, so we can choose up to 2 friendly fighters as an action with the Sepulchral Warden and have them make a move action. So it helps push these fighters forward. And we continue on, we go to turn 2 for the Farstriders. We start covering things such as glory, inspiring, surge objectives. So yeah, it just takes you through each turn, covering all aspects of the game. So we get to use ploys, upgrades, scoring more objectives. It even tells you the dice rolls that will be required to make in order to follow through, so you won't have to roll dice as such. And yeah, just a really handy little guide that tells you the ins and outs of the game, gets you understanding the rules straightforward. So the final round, this is what your hands will look like. So yeah, gives you coverage of all the cards, helps teach you, like I said, just helps teach you everything. All about criticals. And then the final round, final turns. And we find out who won, what if, and what next. So yeah, that's that. We got a little primer there for the Farstriders, so gets started on them and the game plan, what to do with them, and a little one here on how to make use best of the Sepulchral Guard. So that's our get started guide. We also have our full rulebook. Won't flick through this page by page, but we do have some more information here. So we got an overview of the game. We got the 2 warbands in our box set, as well as coverage of the collection and how to muster a warband. Background information for the 2 warbands and why they are in the Shadespire. How to build and paint your models. So all these models are push fit. You just have to cut them out and push them together and they are ready to go. Painting wise, you can go to Battle Ready, which looks pretty good. Give it a wash as well, just to help pick out extra detail. But finally, you can go the full hog and add extra detail with lighter colours and make them more visible and stand out. I think this will be the method I'm probably going to go for myself. Then we have the one thing the Get Started book is missing, and that is how to build your models. So yeah, they are pretty straightforward. Each one is made up of a certain number of components. So components 1 through to 4 make up Elias Swiftblade. Components 5 to 8 builds up Sanson Farstrider. And then components 9 to 13 will build up Almeric Eagle Eye there. Then we have a painting guide here and the colours you will need in order to help paint them. Yeah, this is just done in the Hammers of Sigmar. You are, of course, free to paint them however you choose. And then we have the assembly instructions for the Sepulchral Wardens there. And the Sepulchral Guard. So yeah, fantastic models. And again, we got a paint guide of the recommended colours to apply to them, but you can of course paint them as however you wish. So if you want to play more Underworlds, there is of course the current edition's core set, which is Weird Hollow, which has a more full set because you get magic dice as well as your attack and defense dice. You get 2 different warbands. We get the Stormcast there, which are all wizards, and we are up against wizards in the form of Demons of Zinch. Yeah, there's a new one coming out soon. We are changing into a new setting, and I believe it is Slaanesh versus... Oh, I can't think now. I think it's Stormcast again, but different Stormcast. I could be wrong. Yeah, I can't think off the top of my head, but we are going into a new edition soon. Whether we will get a new starter set, but I think the starter sets are going to be 1 a year. The previous one that we had the easy build Blade Stalkers and the easy build Castigators with Gryph-hound. Didn't fancy that one, didn't really like those models. So yeah, I skipped that one, but this one had 2 warbands that I actually do quite like and missed out having first time round. Other ways to play are buying rival deck packs, which include pre-built decks. You can, of course, for advanced players, build your own deck from your collection, as long as you follow the basic rules of 10, 10, and 12. So yeah, 10 ploys, 10 upgrades, and a total of 12 objectives to score throughout the game. And then we have an introduction and what your components are from the set. So we've got our fighter cards, our objective cards, our power cards, all our different tokens. So Glory, which has 2 sides, spent and unspent. Activation tokens, which are a version of untaken and taken. Wound counters or generic counters. So we have the red side is showing for a wound, and then we have little icons to represent different character abilities. 6 raise counters for our Sepulchral Guard, who allows him to revive dead fighters. Then we have move and charge tokens, guard and stagger tokens. So stagger is actually a fairly newer rule to the game. We have 2 generic feature tokens, a double-sided scatter token, and then we have our objectives, which are all double-sided. So you have the objective side and then the face-down side, which is used when you shuffle and then deal your objectives. And then, of course, we have our double-sided boards. So we got one with a nice tomb, one is more of a ruined central area, one's got like a dais with a spiral staircase, and the other one is another large open area as well. And yeah, so before we play, you want to read through some of the get started stuff. There's advanced rules to check. There's all about the decks, the battlefield, how to set it up, how to play your game, all your activation steps, action steps, taking damage, upgrade cards, and taking you through all the different phases. So next step is, of course, to add new warbands, gain new cards, and of course also starter core sets. Then finally, the last pages is dedicated to a glossary, which gives you all your rules in easy to reference short texts and even page numbers for the full rule coverage. So yeah, there we have it, and there's a more detailed version of our two sides of the boards. And finally on the back we have a reference guide on how to do a turn and various different stages through the game. Right then, next let's take a look at our card content. We'll start with the game boards and then we'll take a look through the decks. So here we have the game boards, and we already have a tear in the wrapping, so we can just rip it open like so. So yeah, we got our two game boards here, and we have our punch out sheets of tokens. So yeah, we have all our objectives, our terrain feature tokens and our scatter tokens. We have our glory and wound tokens, our raise tokens, our activation tokens, and our different action tokens. So charge, move, guard, stagger, and move. And the other side, we've got the unspent side, or the spent side of a glory token. We have the generic reminder tokens and the activated side of the activation tokens. So yeah, really cool. If you've had sets before, my suggestion is to leave these unpunched. You might want different objectives, I don't know, so you can easily punch those out. But you want to leave, if you've got multiple sets, leave these punched, and if in the future your tokens get damaged, you've got a spare set to fall back on. And I think my favourite part of these are the boards, because they are made in lovely detailed pieces. So we've got a ruined figure here representing Nagash. We've got, as I said, a beautiful stone dais with staircase leading up to it. So this is probably like a magician's sorcerer altar, or perhaps even a sacrificial altar. We've got a skull crashed and cracked there. And we got loads of broken up stones, fallen down bits of the ceiling as well. And on the other side, we've got the entrance to what looks like the dungeons, possibly even a arena. So we've got like cogs, so I'm guessing it means the floor used to be able to go up and down. We've got grates which lead down to the dungeon here, with plenty of skulls underneath. And we have a little magical box in the center which requires a total of 8 keys to unlock, by the looks of things. Pretty cool. And yeah, again, we've got fallen bits of ceiling. And then our final one, so we've got yet another rather arcane looking setup. So we got the wizard's wheel in the center. We got, again, more skulls under the grating. We got these 3 chunks of realm stone, which are being siphoned off. And again, the same usual stuff, but I think my favorite of these boards is this one, which is the crypt. So we got loads of different tombs for fallen warriors. Some have been broken where the ground has cracked. Some are open where skeletons have risen out of. And yeah, we got various other little bits of details as well. This is probably easily one of my favorites of the boards. So before we go, one thing we will cover is boards will always have activation or deployment squares, which are detailed with the Underworld symbol there, which is, if I put it the correct way around, is the flaming skull. And if we flip over, we also have squares with the thicker lines. These are blocked hexes. There are also ones which have red outlines. These are dangerous hexes, but I don't believe there are any on these. No, there isn't. We just have blocked hexes. But But yeah, there are also dangerous hexes which can cause damage to people if they are forced into them. Right, our final thing then is to go through the decks. So we'll start with the Farstriders deck. So this pack includes the fighter cards, objective deck and power deck for the Farstriders. And on the back we got a deck list. So if you ever decide to take this deck apart and use certain components for your own decks, we can easily reassemble the deck. New for the most recent sets is that each card will have the warband symbol both at the top and at the bottom, so we know which set it belongs to, which is very handy. So we got Hansen's Farstrider here. He has the keyword hunter. He is a leader represented by the crown here. He's a part of the Grand Alliance of Order and part of the Farstriders warband. So he has a movement of 4 hexes, rolls 1 defense dice needing shields, and has 4 wounds. His Boltstorm pistol has a range of 3 hexes, rolls 3 attacks and will deal 1 damage, and has the ability to stagger on a critical. And his Shock hand axe has a range of 1, 2 attacks and 2 damage. So if we flip him over, we see the inspired side. So when he's inspired, he gets more attacks there with his axe, and he has a better chance at rolling a defense. We also have blinding, so this attack action has a +1 damage and stagger until the end of result on his bolts and talons for his bird there to help him. So yeah, adds extra abilities there as well, so gives him a brand new attack as well. So yeah. Then we have Elias Swiftwind, so much the same as we've seen on Sanson there. Only a movement of 3 though. Pistol is pretty much the same, and we have a saber instead of an axe, so we got more attacks with the saber, but it's still only 2 damage. And to inspire, the fighter has made 2 or more attack actions with different names in the same phase. Ooh. And then the inspired side, again, we got more defense, and that is pretty much it, I think. Yeah, everything else is near enough the same. We do gain cleave, though, on the saber. And then Almeric Eagle Eye. So, again, it's pretty much the same as we've seen with the previous 2 fighters. Hand axe is only 2 attacks for 2 damage. And then we have, of course, the Inspire, so making 2 attacks with different names in the same phase. And then the Inspired side, so again, defense improves. Stagger is added to the pistol. Is it? No, it's not. It's had stagger before. We do get more damage, though, on the axe. And that's pretty much it. So, objectives, we have Ranger Strike, which gives 1 glory. Flash of Light for 1 glory, Prime Objective for 1 glory, Lightning Advance for 1 glory, Master of the Hunt for 1 glory, Swift Punishment for 1 glory, Without Equal for 2 glory, Bolts of Azir for 1 glory, Veteran Marksman for 1 glory, The Judgment of Sigmar for 1 glory, and Stormforged Vanguard for 1 glory, and finally Swift Work for 2 glory. So yeah, lots of low scoring objectives, but loads that you can easily score quickly in same turns. Then we have our gambits, so Etheric Paths, which allows you to choose a friendly fighter in an edge hex and more than 1 hex away from enemy fighters, place it on any other edge hex and give it a charge token. We have Lightning Blow, Rapid Volley, Covering Fire, Overcharged Boltstorm Pistol, Merciless Assault, Warning Cry, Crackling Blade, Hails of Bolts, Ceaseless Volley, Raptor Strike, Retribution, Swift Stride, Far-Sighted, Fearsome Roar, Incredible Stamina, Ranger's Advance, Lone Warrior, Etheric Step, and Watchful Advance. So there's some really nice cards there. So yeah, that's it for the Farstriders. Let's take a look then at the Sepulchral Guard. So let's take a look through the Sepulchral Guard deck. So again, we got the usual front cover here. So we include objective, fighter and power cards. And then we have the list on the back there. So we have the Sepulchral Warden, who's the leader of our warband, part of the Grand Alliance Death, and has the Sepulchral Warden symbol there. Has a movement of 2, so he's very slow. Defense of 1, 4 wounds. His spear has a range of 2, 2 attacks, and deals 2 damage. He inspires if 2 or more friendly fighters have raise counters, or you give the an inspired friendly fighter a raise counter. So we also have the action, choose up to 2 friendly fighters and they can make a move. Or we have an action of choose 1 friendly fighter that is out of action, place the fighter on an empty hex and give it a raise counter. And then he's inspire side, so we've got the alternate arts on the other side, which is quite nice. So usually the older warbands used to just have the same artwork either side, but we've got the rather cool alternate arts here, which is nice. So he has a better movement when he becomes inspired and has 3 damage on his spear. So pretty standard there. We have the Prince of Dust here. So movement 2, defense 1, 3 wounds. He inspires if he's got a raise counter or 1 or more raise counters. And he has the Royal Mace, which is range 1, 2 attacks, 2 damage and knockback 1. And then he's Inspire card. So he has 3 attacks, has knockback 1 and stagger on his mace. So it looks really cool. The Champion, so movement 2, defense of 1 but with dodges, not shields. A 3 and 3 wounds, 1 attack with 1 range. I'm getting all tongue-tied. Ranged 1 attack with 2 dice and 2 damage and cleave. And again, he has inspired condition of having counters. And he's inspired side, so we have extra attack there on his sword and an extra movement. Next up then, the Harvester, who has the Brawler keyword. 2 movement, 1 defense with evade, 3 wounds. His scythe has a range of 1, 2 attacks, 2 wounds and the scything rule. Then inspired, he has that extra movement and an extra attack there. So yeah, pretty cool there. Really love the purple etheric glow they've all been given. That looks really nice. The Inevitable Petitioner then, so has a Petitioner keyword, has a movement of 2, 1 defense with shields, 2 wounds, has the Ancient Weapon, so range 1, 2 attacks and a single damage, and inspires by having raise counters on. And then we have more attacks on his weapon, and he has a movement of 3. Next up then, we've got the Zealous Petitioner, so same as all our other skeletons, 2, 1 and 2. His Ancient Weapon is range 1, 2 attacks, 1 damage. Then Inspired, he has that extra movement and that extra attack on these melee weapons. And finally then, the Rising Petitioner, so he has 2 attacks, 1 defense, 2 wounds. Oh, sorry, movement 2, 1 defense and 2 wounds. He has 1 range 1 weapon with 2 attacks and 1 damage. And then Inspired, again, we got that +1 to his movement and +1 to his weapons. So we've got our objectives. So Land of the Dead for 1 glory. Lay Claim to It All for 1 glory. March of the Dead for 2 glory. They Keep Coming for 1 glory. Undying Watchman for 2 glory. Nice to see they've actually got new artwork for these cards. So we've got the Witch Hunter Warband here getting beaten up by the Harvester. That's pretty nice. A Challenge Unanswered for 2 glory. Invigorated Dead for 1 glory. Eternal Legions for 2 glory. Retake What Is Ours for 3 glory. Skills Unforgotten for 1 glory. Grave Reprisal for 1 glory. And finally, Battle Without End for 1 glory. Again, lots of 1s, which is pretty good. There's a lot that you can easily score. A lot of them are surge and dual ones, so they're quick to score anyway. Then we got our ploys and upgrades. So we got Bone Shrapnel, Terrifying Screams, Pitiless Command, Frightening Speed, Deathly Charge, Restless Dead, Inexhaustible Warriors, Petitioner's Oath, No End to Our Duty, The Necromancer Commands, Undying, Ancient Commander, Spark of Independence, Ceaseless Attacks, Legacy of Dust, Startling Reformation, No Vitals, Worthless Chaff, A Familiar Face, and the Warden's Command. So there we have it. Right, I'll bring everything in and I'll give you my final thoughts on this starter set. So there we have it. That is the unboxing for Warhammer Underworlds, the 2-player starter set. So first off, let's talk about the contents of the starter set. This would be very appealing to people, first off, who missed these warbands the first time round, and it's interesting, secondly, to people who like either of the two, or both these included factions. So we've got the Vanguard Hunters, the Stormcast. Not my favourite, but I do like them more than their chunkier armour, the rest of the Warrior Chamber fighters. I think the inclusion of the furs and stuff really makes them stand out against a rather continual sea of the same sort of thing. I must admit, I do like the newer Stormcast stuff, the slimmer armor, plenty of cloaks and different textures to help make them a little more interesting to look at. Personally, I love the skeletons. This is the main reason I picked them up, was to get hold of this warband. Again, they are fantastic models. Miss having them because, like I said at the start of the video, I bought them for a partner and she took them when we broke up. So yeah, nice to have them again, and they have the updated cards as well, because I believe their cards, one of them got updated in a arena free download a few years back, and it's nice to have them again, and brand new artwork on them as well, which is pretty nice. Great models. Like I said, they will be suitable to people who like those particular factions, or to people who, just want to get started on the Warhammer Underworlds journey. The rest of the contents, the Get Started book is fantastic, nicely, clearly spread out, not too much to take in on each page. Definitely going to be handy for people wanting to get their first games played. The rulebook, as I've said for previous Warhammer Underworlds rulebooks, it's great. You've got a nice mixture of background and rules and tutorials in there for building and painting. Really great books, nicely done, well put together. The boards and tokens, then, if you missed the Shadespire set and want to get that first edition feel, then yeah, this is the box set for you. But yeah, there's just some really great boards, especially that crypt one, as I've mentioned. And yeah, the tokens, if you've got plenty already, you won't need them, so keep them in the box. And if you need replacements at some point, they're there for you. But if you haven't got the tokens, it's a good get started set. If you only plan to pick up individual warbands, or what they've been doing lately is when the new season starts, the previous 2 warbands from the season box will be re-released in a double pack with just their decks and models. So if you want the boards and tokens, or the warbands from the previous, if you want the warbands from the previous edition, or if you don't want to buy any more tokens and boards, you can just wait for those sets to come out and pick them up, and you'll have, of course, all your tokens and boards from this starter set or one of the other editions sets. The only thing you don't get in here that you will need for most full games is you don't get the magic dice. Not every warband has wizards. In fact, it was only introduced in the 2nd edition, which was the Night Vault. So yeah, this is very indicative of the times, should I say, when it is the 1st edition of the game, where it went an entire year before we had a new edition. Now I believe it's every 6 months we get a new edition. We don't get as many warbands per edition, which is nice. We only get, I think it's 4 warbands, as well as the 2 in the core sets. So yeah, it's nice that we get... It's a good game system. It's changed quite regularly. New cards are always coming out, new warbands are always coming out, so there's always that new, fresh feel to it. So yeah, if you are a veteran, you might want to skip this, but if you're looking to get somebody into it, or you're new yourself and you wanted to know what this set would entail, it's definitely well worth picking up. If you want to get the magic dice, I do suggest picking up a core set, or I don't know if they do them anymore, but they used to do faction specific dice, which used to include the complete sets. So you'd have your 3 magic, your 3 defense, and your 5 attack. I believe you can get Grand Alliance dice sets though, so you can get a set coloured specifically to death, chaos, destruction, or order. So that might be a way for you to go if you don't want to go buying another core set, just buy this starter set. But this is pretty much what it is. It is a starter set. It's ideal for getting you going. Core sets have a little bit more in them that you wouldn't normally get otherwise. And they come, of course, with unique warbands, new cards, and new counters, boards, and your full rules. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say, really. Again, I can't sing the praises of this set enough. It's great. Nice that we get the classic warbands from 1st edition. Nice to get the boards and tokens as well from the 1st edition. And it's nice to see the updated artwork on the cards. And yeah, pretty good set for anyone wanting to get in. That beginner's guidebook really does help get you going. So, final rating then, and price. First off, the set is actually £40, which I believe is slightly cheaper than the core sets. I think they're £45. But for that, you do get some unique bits. You do get the 2 warbands. They're usually £24 each individually, so you're already looking at a saving there. You're getting your boards, your tokens, your dice, your cards, and of course all your rules. So for the price, it's great value. If you want to get it a little cheaper, check your local stockists who offer anything between 10 and 20% off. But yeah, I picked this up direct from Games Workshop, so I needed to get my vampire lady delivered free, and this was in my basket anyway, so I picked it up. But yeah, that is it. Final thoughts then is it's a great set. Value is pretty good, and it really does have that strong nostalgia feel for the very early rendition of the game. So with that said, I'd like to thank you all for watching. Again, if you think I deserve it, please give this video a like, and if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel for future content. If you'd like to see this set featured in a Get Started series, let me know in the comments section down below. I might do it anyway, as it's pretty cool. I'll show you how to build and paint your models, or how I'd paint them anyway. And yeah, I'll even take you through a first turn of the game, get you familiar with the rules. So yeah, let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what you thought of the video anyway. And thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.